But there's a problem also with therapists, because therapists have a lot of issues of their own that they've never cleared. And if you haven't cleared their problems, how in the hell are you going to help someone clear their problems? Especially if those problems are similar or the same as the problems that you are still dealing with. Like, I like to use like divorce. You know, you go to a female therapist that went through a divorce, and then she'll sit there and tell you what a bastard your husband was, but she never met him. So how the hell can she even make that assessment? Maybe it's her client that's the problem.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Infinite Ability Podcast. I am your host, Nick Yerhart, and we are here to encourage each other to find our own unique abilities. Let's go. This episode of the Infinite Abilities Podcast is brought to you by the one and only Infinite Toolbox, where just like all other toolboxes, we will get the job done, guaranteed. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to save time, boost revenue, or automate your processes, Infinite Toolbox has got you covered. With powerful tools designed to drive leads, expand your reach, and gain your industry secrets, we help you work smarter, not harder. Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Visit us at infinitetoolbox.com. That's infinitetoolbox.com, and discover how infinite your potential really is. I have a guest that was my guest a while back. She was on episode 59, and this is Suzanne. She is a hypnotist, and I loved our conversation last time, so I invited her back for a second round. So, Suzanne, how's it going?
Things are going pretty well. The weather is nice still over here in Albania, so I'm very grateful for that.
Awesome. So, last time we really, dove into, hypnosis and what it's about and what it is. It's, it was different than what I thought. So I actually learned a lot. So thank you so much for that. And, on today's episode, I would just like to hit on everything that you want. So in this episode, we're just going to focus on what you want to talk about. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, I think I want to talk about a more holistic way of dealing with what's going on with our lives.
I love that.
Often, I'm glad, often we talk about mental health issues, which is really what I base my hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming practice upon. Mm-hmm. We have to understand that many times these issues are not just, shall we say, emotional. And this is a really big problem that I have with a lot of the people in the mental health world, because they never learn about the physiology of the body. They never learn about other causes for having these problems. And then they wonder why their patients never heal. Well, if you have a broken left leg and you're working on the right leg, you're not going to be able to take care of the problem, are you?
Mm-hmm. No.
Got to go to the cause of the problem. So a lot of times when I answer questions on Quora, which is really a forum where people can ask questions on anything and everything. And hopefully, if you're lucky, you'll get people who actually know what the hell they're talking about. And in the world of mental health, we have quite a few of us on there who do answer questions very realistically and practically, though I don't always agree with everything that other people say. However, what I can say is that I'm always explaining to the people who ask these questions of me that we have to understand, for example, depression can be caused by many, many different things. Yes, it can be emotional. And it can go from grieving over a loss of somebody, which doesn't require medication. I don't think any depression requires medication, actually. I haven't found it to be true, if you actually know what you're doing with hypnosis or linguistic programming. But a lot of times people seem depressed, they'll go on meds. I wonder why the meds aren't working. Is because they don't work. They're only placebo rate of efficacy anyway, based on, 40 years of research at this point, for anyone who actually wants to look it up. And then we have the issue of metabolic problems, like people who have leaky gut, for example. They're not able to metabolize their nutrition. They get all inflamed. They have major problems. This causes problems. There's people with genetic issues, and I'm not talking about a genetic issue for depression necessarily. It's the MFRA something or another gene that causes a lot of problems. I had a client who for years was looking for how to help herself. She tried every antidepressant out there and nothing worked. Well, it took a really long time, and a integrative doctor who I sent her to, I referred her to finally figure this out. And it actually, she had the genetics on both sides. So he has to give her supplements for her dopamine, serotonin, GABA, because her body doesn't make it naturally.
Yep, I actually did the same thing. I had a gene test done, and that was MFHR, whatever it is. That gene, I wasn't producing the things that my body needs. So I also take supplements to help with that.
So you understand clearly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we have something called medication side effects. Mm-hmm. You give people antidepressants, especially the younger people. There's a black box on it for a reason. Mm-hmm. You don't get the black box on the, what do you call it, on the tube that you get from the doctor, but they have it in the pharmacy. And it's because it causes homicidal and suicidal feelings many times in younger people, teens and 20-somethings. We have to ask ourselves, seriously, where are we giving this crap to these kids? You want to know why you're having mass shootings? That's why you're having mass shootings. Homicidal thoughts, hello. And they can also go psychotic if they're given psychotic meds, and they don't need the psychotic medication. So these are all problematic issues as well. And then there's nutritional deficiencies that can cause it as well. So
that's huge. Yep.
We have to have someone who can do that testing to figure this out before we decide it's a mental health problem, especially when your patient tells you, I had a good life. I didn't have any of these problems. I don't know why I'm having these problems. So these are the situations that we really need to look at. So that's one thing that I want to get through to people. I want to also say that OCD is a form of anxiety. So again, if we're not able to make the neurotransmitters or they're not getting the nutrition that they need for whatever reason it is, well, this can be a cause of it. I think the other thing that I want people to know a lot about hypnotism and neurolinguistic programming, it's really a matter of trust. We're going into the person's subconscious mind. We're going to the amygdala where their emotions are held, most especially anger, but where they develop and where they're held, and into their memories. Not that we have perfect memories, because what you recall as a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old person is going to be very different than what you may recall when you're older. And even then you're going to delete a lot of stuff, which is going to end up distorting the memories. So we have to understand that if people are going to allow us to go into their mind, they have to trust us. That means building rapport. It also means that I may not be the right person for a lot of people, and I'm not. And the reason I can tell you I'm not is because I'm not willing to put up their manipulative bullshit. And I tell them that straight up, especially when I'm working with sex addicts and eating disorder people, because these are the people who learn to manipulate in order to get their needs met as little tiny children. You can't really blame them for it, but you can hold them accountable for it and not put up with it. So I always tell them, if you try to manipulate me, you're not going to be in this practice very long. I'm not going to put up with it. I will call you on it, and you're going to change it, or there's nothing to do here. And then the other thing is I always give my folks a lot of homework. And the homework is based on the stuff that comes up in our sessions. Because we're going in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind tells us exactly what we need to do. So the homework is based on those things. And a lot of times it means having conversations with people they probably don't want to have conversations with. But you can't tell who your real friends are if you're not willing to have these conversations, especially if you're feeling very negative after you're interacting with them for whatever reason. So we have to keep these things in the back of our mind. So how do I build trust with my people? By being honest with them, like I just was. That's why I do free consultations. So I can tell them about the program, but more importantly, the personality, to see if it's a personality that matches. I want to know that they have a problem within my scope of care. I want to know that I like them enough to work with them because I spend hours with them. I don't do 50-minute sessions and pick up the next week. I do intensive sessions with my people. We spend
I know your sessions are like 2.5, 3 hours, and that's amazing. And I know that you can get a lot done and at that amount of time. So it's really good that you do take the time to spend with your clients and truly help them as much as you can.
It's really important because there's something called consistency of care. And I've had clients who didn't want to do it like 3 days in a row, which is the way I like to do things. I do the detailed personal history, which is where I find out what the problems are and what we need to clear and the things that they want to do, what their objectives are, besides just healing their problems. It's not enough. You got to fill their life with the things they want to do, hobby-wise, relationship-wise, work-wise, whatever. And then from there, we have to be able to understand what's really, truly going on with them. Now, if they end up having a situation where they have an abreaction, as we call it in the hypnotic world, where they start crying or they get really angry or something, we have to have the time to help them clear it. I don't want anyone leaving my sessions angry, ever. Yeah. So you never know. And then there's like logical times when you can break away from the session to do the next part of the work. And again, it's different for every person that I work with, but I want to make sure I get a good chunk done because I want to make sure that they're feeling the healing between the sessions. It's so important. I don't want them to think that they have to see me for the rest of their freaking lives. It's not true. You don't go to a hypnotist to see people forever. You go to a hypnotist to get clear of your problems and have a life fast. People who want to have, whine and cry all day in their life, and I tell them I don't deal with that either. That's what therapists do.
I'm just going to say that's what therapists does.
Yeah, they'll take your money forever. It makes for a really lovely practice. You just keep taking their money week after week, and then they whine and cry to you. But there's a problem also with therapists because therapists have a lot of issues of their own that they've never cleared. And if you haven't cleared their problems, how in the hell are you going to help someone clear their problems? Especially if those problems are similar or the same as the problems that you are still dealing with. Like, I like to use like divorce. You go to a female therapist that went through a divorce and then she'll sit there and tell you what a bastard your husband was, but she never met him. So how the hell can she even make that assessment? Maybe it's her client that's the problem. You can't help a client until you know what the real problem is, and you have to do forgiveness. It's the only way to do it. So these are the things I want people to really, truly understand. And it is work. Hypnotism and NLP, it works very fast. But there's stuff you got to do. And you got to do the processing. And you can't pretend to do the processing because then you're not going to get anything out of it. Which is why I always confirm what my clients have learned after every processing process that I do. I don't know how else to say that. So these are the really important things that I want people to really recognize. I'm not here to waste people's time. I'm not here to extort money from people who aren't ready to be healed. And I'm not here to deal with people's garbage. I'm here to clear them of their garbage so they can have a really good life. And if you're looking for a hypnotist or somebody like this, or even a therapist, you damn well better figure out if they're the right match for you. Because many of them aren't. The problem that you have with a lot of the mental health people is that because of the HIPAA laws, they cannot give you case histories of the work they've done. It's illegal. I'm not licensed. I have testimonials all over my website of all the different work that I've done. And testimonials are, this is what my life was like before I saw Suzanne. This is what a pain in the ass she was to help me work through my problem. And with, this is what my life is like now. And it's definitely worth it. And I want them to tell their real story.
Yeah, and having a testimonial, that's more powerful than any license or anything. It's the fact that you are actually helping people. That's what's important.
Absolutely. My basic thing, and I argue in a Psych D program, so doctorate for psychology. I argue with these theories. They have the stupidest freaking theories about all this garbage. It's all disproven, in terms of a lot of stuff that they talk about there. And I tell them, if this was true, I would not be able to help my clients in the way that I do. And I've been doing it for 23 years, so you're not going to sit here and tell me this stuff doesn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. Yeah, you've put in the time. You've helped a lot of clients, so you know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, a few thousand at this time, 23. And that's not even a lot because I have my really long sessions and I only see so many at a time, meaning like so many per week, because if I'm doing 3 or 4 day interventions, you can only see so many at a time because it's hard work, You're in there doing the work. I actually get energized a lot, but you also have to not overdo it because you can get sick yourself by putting in too much work doing this kind of stuff. And I know a lot of people, hypnotists in particular, who have gotten themselves pretty ill as a result of doing that. So you've got to be mindful. You've got to take care of yourself. It's important.
Yeah. And to go up I'm sure, when you're working with a client, I'm sure a lot of negativity that they say and all that. What do you do for yourself to kind of, remove that from your mind to keep your mental health healthy?
It's called excellent boundaries, right? I learned these excellent boundaries in 2 ways. The first was when I was working at the Gathering Place Clubhouse with mentally ill adults 19 and above, and many of them had comorbidities, so they had more than one mental illness, and many of them had drug addiction issues as well. If you're unable to deal with them and you get offended or hurt every time they yell at you or they tell you something, and if you're not careful, like in one case, I had a client, he was adorable. He looked like a professor with his pipe and everything. But when he went into psychosis as a schizophrenic, he believed he was Hitler. And if he knew I was Jewish, that would not be so good. So we had to hide that from him. Things that you have to keep in mind.
Yep.
But he loved me till the very end. It was very excellent. And the other thing is that I do not have their problems. They have their problems. My job is to help them with their problems. Nothing more, nothing less. And I tell them that. I can empathize with you with having the problems, but I'm not going to be here and get upset because you've gone through life's tragedies. That's not what you're having me do. And if I was to do that and to cry with you and do all that stuff, you wouldn't have a safe place to heal. Now, the other thing you have to understand with boundaries, and it's something Todd James talks about, or used to, unfortunately he passed away a little while ago, he would tell the story about his cancer patient who was in a very toxic relationship with her husband, and he told her she had to leave the relationship. She left the relationship for a year. Cancer went into remission. Husband got back at her, went back into the relationship. Within a few months, she was dead.
Wow.
You can only do what you can do for these people.
Yeah.
They have to follow through and do what you say. And if they're going to get upset with you, I always tell them, I'm getting the information from your subconscious mind. Don't you think your subconscious mind knows a hell of a lot more than psychological theory, quote unquote? Seriously.
Yep.
And so that's how you do that. Excellent question.
Yeah, and to go off of that, it's so important to listen to your subconscious mind and be aware of what goes into your subconscious mind. I know last time we talked, and you talked about listening to the news. That's not good for your subconscious, because the more, let's say, I will say I don't watch the news. I think it's too much negativity, but the more negativity that you listen to, your subconscious is going to start believing it, and that's the problem. It's like we have to be aware that what goes in tends to stay in. So make sure that you bring in positive thoughts and positive, music or podcast or news or whatever. I think that's really important.
It's really, really important. The thing of this is that, especially in America and Western Europe, everything is negative. There is nothing positive. And then people sell you crap to think that you're going to lose all your money. I don't have any, so that's not a problem. But basically, they make you worry about the government taking all your money. They make you worry about the fact that your government is going to harm you either way. They make you worry about your water, your food, your this, your that. There's nothing that is healthy over there in America. In Europe, it's more about the government and situations of this matter, you know? So you have to be concerned about what you take in. And it's not like if you hear it once, it's going to devastate you.
No.
But the problem is that if you hear this stuff repeatedly, that's when it negatively affects us. That's when we start getting really angry, or we get really scared. And they want you to be worried because that's how they control you. So you have to be really understanding that it's a form of hypnosis. It truly is. Brainwashing equals hypnosis. A lot of people don't like it when I say it that way, but it's a fact.
And it's a negative hypnosis.
Yeah, definitely, because a lot of these hypnotists will tell you all hypnosis, self-hypnosis, bullshit. How do you think Hitler got all his people to do everything he wanted them to do? How do you think that happened? He had this very engaging, charismatic personality. He was able to blame the Jews for everything, and so the population went against the Jews. That's how that happened.
Yeah.
Jim Jones, how do you think he got all his people to drink all that poisoned lemonade? A lot of Muslims, you know, the Islamists, believe that if they kill people like Jews, they're going to have their 72 virgins to have sex with in the other world.
Yeah.
And it's because this is what they're told over and over and over and over again. Now, I'm not saying all Muslims are like that. I live in a Muslim country in Albania, and they're beautiful people. Most of them are beautiful people, so I certainly don't want to say that, you know, the whatever tiny percent that are crazy represent everybody. That's not true at all. So I want you to understand that we have to be very careful about the information that we bring into our minds. And there's many ways for our body to let us know that this stuff is toxic. You might get queasy feelings. You might start feeling angry, or really upset after the person leaves you, or after you listen to the newscast or whatever. And you might just have this feeling that you just got to get out. My advice to you, get out. Do whatever you have to do to make that happen, because it's the only way you're going to keep yourself mentally healthy. And, you know, if you aren't mentally healthy, a lot of times people get physically ill. This is why people end up with things like cancer, autoimmune issues. It's because they never took care of their mental health issues and their body's screaming at them to do something.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad that you came back on the podcast. Can you tell everyone how to schedule a consult with you?
Yeah, they can go to my email. I think that's the easiest way to do it, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's Suzanne, Suzanne, at Dawning, DAWN as in Nancy, ING, Visions, V as in Victor, I, S as in Sam, IONS.com.
All right.
And what I want them to do is, if they want to schedule a session, I just want them to put a few asterisks in the subject line and just say, love to schedule a session.
Okay.
I have, fancy other ways to do it, but this is really the easiest way. Or they can go on the website, dawningvisions.com, and there's a contact me thing there, and they can click on that, and they can send me, they'll get a form, actually, ask them a few questions about what's going on with them, and then they can have me send them the information to schedule a session from there.
Awesome. Well, good. And for everybody listening, if you want to hear more of what Suzanne has, you can listen to episode 59 of the Infinite Abilities podcast, because our first episode was also good, and this one was even better. So, Suzanne, I just want to thank you again. This was really awesome.
I really thank you a lot for educating your audience about what their mind can do for them regardless of what the mental health and the physiological health people say, and how to protect themselves from outside invaders so they can protect themselves. No one needs to put up with anything from anybody.
I'm all about holistic health, holistic healing, and I want to, help more people realize that it can really help you out. I know it's helped me a ton, so I want more people to, just give it a try. Let's try to go away from medication and start giving our bodies what they actually need.
Especially where mental health is concerned, because I'm going to tell you right here, right now, there's too many people on these toxic drugs. They can never get off these toxic drugs. The psychiatrist will not help them get off it because their brain changes. They're fearful of what's going to happen. They have to be taken off it really, really slowly. And then they worry, well, if they're on this drug, all hell's going to break loose. Well, if you have actually someone like me who actually knows what they're doing, and because I have a little bit of nursing education as well, it's not like I did nursing particularly. I hated it. I understand how the body and mind work together. So I understand what is mental health issues, what is physiological issues, and how to mediate between the two of them.
Yeah, exactly. I love the work that you do, and it's just, I know you're helping your clients so much. So thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. And also understand that kids, teens and 20-year-olds, they're the best hypnotists in the world. If you have any kid with anxiety, you have a kid who's depressed, your kid who's not acting right, find me. I will help them, and I will help them very quickly to overcome this stuff. Because they are master hypnotists. They're already in this state. Please do not make them deal with this crap. Do not put them on these toxic medications. Just get them the help that they need so they can move on with their lives and be happy.
Yep, I agree. All right. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Nick. It was a joy.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me here, the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth, help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.